This is the Day of Battle podcast. Today we're going to do something a little bit different on the show. We are going to deliver to you the Ultimate Warrior package. I have a good friend that's about to head off to Marine Corps boot camp. And I thought that I would come up with a little episode that gives him some guidance. And I know he's already been doing some of these things already. But I'm just thinking about giving him, and anyone else for that matter that's going into boot camp, some guidance on things to do to prepare you before you get there. This is the Ultimate Warrior package. And yes, it's applicable for Marine Corps boot camp, but it's also applicable for any guys that are going into anything else that's hard, where you're going to face some serious adversity. So it could be the police academy, the fire academy. If you're not going to go into any of these new job-related things where you're like pushed to your limit, but you just want to do it, then go ahead and do it. You might even have fun. So, I've talked before about my boot camp experience on this show and other podcasts that I've been bringing to you. Honestly, boot camp was one of the hardest things that I did up until that point in my life. It was very difficult for me, and I was not expecting the type of adversity that I actually faced there. It came as a shock. Like, I wanted to go in the Marine Corps and be really hardcore, and I wanted to do hard things. But wanting to do those things and actually connecting them in my brain with how hard they were going to be when it actually happened was quite a different thing. And honestly, I wasn't ready for that. I guess I was ready for it in the sense that I got through it, but I was just not prepared like I should have been for some of the things that came my way. Here's some practical things for you to do, for you to get your head wrapped around before you set out into this new adventure, this new journey, this new way of life that you are about to undertake. And it's going to encompass three things. I think that the Ultimate Warrior has three things in check: his mind, his body, and his soul. If you're lacking in any one of those departments, those facets, you're going to have a problem on the battlefield. You're going to have a problem in training. And you don't want to have those kind of problems. There's certain things that are coming your way that you can't do a darn thing about, and let those be your problems. But you don't want you to be your problem. Mind, your mindset, what's up in your brain. And I'm not talking about just getting your brain right and being able to take in the increased knowledge load that is going to happen to you when you're learning all these new military things like the rank structure and how to march. And you learn how to talk differently. You end up talking in the third person when you're in basic training in the Marine Corps. It's really weird. Instead of saying I am hungry, I have to go to the bathroom, you are now saying, this recruit requests permission to speak. This recruit requests permission to make a head call. And it's a complete mind blow because you've never talked in the third person before. Like, the only people that talk in the third person out in the real world are those with like a major mental illness on the streets. So you've got a head change coming, that's for sure. But when I talk about mindset, what I'm saying is you need to be mentally ready for the adversity that's going to come your way. Everyone is going to have a point in time in boot camp where they're going to question their initial decision to even join the military. And I saw this numerous times when I was in boot camp of guys that like went up to the drill instructor crying and saying, I don't want to be here anymore. I made a mistake. I don't want to be a Marine. I'm here all by mistake. I just want to go home now. And, what's underneath that is it's not that they didn't want to be a Marine. It's that they didn't want to go through this really hard aspect of basic training. And they were not expecting it to be as hard as what it really was. You need to understand, before you set out, before you hop in that little van and travel with your drill instructor to wherever he's going to drop you off at, you say goodbye to your family, you need to understand and know full well that you are up against a wall, and it's going to be hard. You are going to have problems. You are going to be more tired than you've ever been before. You are going to have situations where you are required to wake up at 3 in the morning and get out of bed and stand watch all by yourself. And you're not going to want to get out of bed. You know, you can watch the things on the movie that the recruiter shows you, and it looks so much fun. It looks so interesting and something special to be a part of. But when you're actually doing it and you really are tired and you're really hungry and you're really lonely, it's not fun anymore. And I found that out firsthand, and you're going to. I mean, everybody gets through it. Don't get me wrong. It's not like it's something that's going to stop you, but I think that you should have an understanding in your mind that, you know what, this is going to be hard. So it helps when you understand how difficult things are going to be and how tired you're going to be and how you're going to have a point in time where you want to quit, but you already go there in your brain and you say, I know I'm going to want to quit, but I'm not going to quit. I've already been there in my head. I have foreseen it, and I've pushed through it. You know, I would say, like, when a fighter steps into the octagon in the UFC, they know that they are going to get punched in the face. They know they're going to get kicked in the face, and they go in there knowing it is going to happen to me. I am going to get the daylights beat out of my face, but I'm going to push through it, and I'm not going to quit. And the guys that go in there with that mindset are victorious, usually, or at least they don't give up. And that's a good mindset to have. So you've got to prepare your mind, and it's not just your brain power. It's your mind. It's what is inside of you for facing down the tough times. And ultimately, that is going to be the time when you really have to rely on God to give you his strength. We've talked about that on the Day of Battle so much in the past, that our strength does not come from just our own perseverance and willpower. Instead, it comes from the Lord, and he's going to be there for you. And when you reach that point in time there in boot camp and you're like, you're freaking done, that is when you need to be talking to God the most. It's not the first time you should be calling out to him. You should be calling out to him all the time. But when you finally reach that bottom point and you cry out to him, that is going to be your only comfort. And you're going to draw his strength to get you through it. And you're going to have to depend upon God. So go there in your mind. Understand that you're going to have to depend upon the King to get you through this. And that's honestly a good place to be. And you'll look back on the entire experience with some fondness because you got through it like that. Now, hopefully, everything goes well for you while you're in there. You stay injury-free. Things back home don't go sideways on you. I've talked about my experience in the past where when I was in boot camp, I received news that my best friend back home was killed in a car accident. And that news devastated me. That news did not diminish my will and desire to become a Marine. I think that in some ways it focused me more, and just dealing with that loss while I was going through that made the entire experience extremely difficult. And boot camp wasn't fun for me because I was experiencing a loss of my best friend the entire time. So, yeah, unfortunately, I did not enjoy boot camp because there were far more important things on my mind. And you know that is something that happens to many people while they're away, is like there's other things that happen back home while you're in there, and you're trying to become a Marine or a soldier, and things happen. My only advice for that is that you just cling to the Lord. And honestly, no matter where you're at in life, boot camp might not even be on the horizon. It's something totally different. Tragedy can always strike. And when tragedy strikes, it is the Lord that you cling to. That's all that you have. He's all you have. He's all you need. It doesn't mean it's not tough. It is tough. That's the only way we get through it. So get your mindset right. And then secondly, body. So the ultimate warrior is mind, body, soul. When it comes to the body, before you go there, you need to be in excellent shape. By the time you get to boot camp, you need to be cranking out 25 pull-ups. You need to be running 3 miles in close to 18 minutes. And you should be cranking out 100 push-ups in a set. That is a very good goal. Now, not everybody might reach that goal. And that's okay. Everybody's different. Everybody's body is different. But for those of you wanting to go into recon after boot camp and hit that indoc in the School of Infantry, you need to be ready to face serious adversity. You need to be ready to be pushed past the point of wanting to quit. You need to be ready to be puking your guts up on a run and continuing to run further and never giving up. So in order to get there, before you even get to boot camp, you've got to be hard already. Now, I'm going to recommend a couple things in order to get yourself hard so you can get to boot camp, push through it, injury-free, and push past it into the infantry school so that you can go be a recon Marine. Or you want to go try out and be a scout sniper? Great. Here's what you need to be doing. You need to be running at least 4 times a week. You should be running distances of 5 miles, 3 miles, and 1 mile. When you're doing your 1 mile run, you need to be running that 1 mile as fast as you possibly can. You know, you've got to do some cross training where it's almost a sprint, and then others are a longer drawn out jog. But get your legs to where they are capable of whatever you ask them to do. If you ask them to run you 10 miles, they'll run you 10 miles. If you ask them to sprint you a mile, they'll sprint you a mile. And then for the other things like pull-ups and push-ups, be cranking those things out daily. There is no such thing as, I'm too sore for push-ups and pull-ups today. Too bad. You're not going to be too sore when it comes time to boot camp, and your drill instructor's telling you to do it, so do them now. A recommendation that I have is be doing 10 to 15 sets of pull-ups every day, with the reps inside of those sets somewhere between 8 and 15 each time. For your push-ups, at least 20 reps per set, and push your sets anywhere from 10 to 15 sets. So you could be doing 200, 300 push-ups in a workout. And then I think that you should be finishing off your workouts with air squats. Crank out 6 sets of 50 for 300 reps. If you do that, your legs are going to be strong. They're going to be able to carry you a far distance, a short distance very quickly, and you'll have great grip strength and pull-up strength and push-up strength to get you through the obstacles that the Marine Corps is going to throw at you. If you can do that, you can probably get through there injury-free. I think the worst thing that could happen is that your body gives up on you before you actually personally give up, and you develop a stress fracture because your bone structure was not built up for what you had to be doing. And your muscle will develop much quicker than your bone and your joints. Increase the time under tension before you even get there. When it comes to training your body, you've really got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. You have to know before you hit your workouts that you are going to push yourself to a point where you want to stop, where you want to give up and go in the house and rest. But you have to tell yourself that when that time comes, you're going to keep pushing for greater and greater results. And you will not have those greater results unless you push through that stopping point where everybody else wants to stop right there. You go further. Also, for those of you that want to be doing recon and high-speed stuff like that, get in the pool. If you're not a great swimmer, that's okay. You just need to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And when it comes time for the pool, everyone is going to be uncomfortable. One piece of advice for pool work would be treading water. Just get out there and start treading water. You should have a spotter if you're going to do this, someone that can swim well in case you get to a position where they need to bail you out. So just for your own safety, get a spotter. But get in the pool and start treading water for 15, 20, 30 minutes. And if you can do that, you're going to build up some good stabilizing muscles that carry you a good distance into boot camp. Because honestly, the pool work in boot camp can be very difficult when you're training with a lot of gear and you're in this an environment that you do not control anymore. It gets pretty tough. So yeah, push yourself hard. Get ready to push yourself into places where you're like, I want to give up right now and I want to vomit and then I want to go inside and curl up in the fetal position. You get to that point and you keep on going, you're heading in the right direction. And then finally, it comes down to the soul. And I would say that this is by far the most important aspect of becoming a warrior. And it's an aspect that the Marine Corps, or any branch of our services for that matter, is not going to teach you, and they're not going to emphasize it. The soul of the warrior is really the most important out of that trifecta. Because you can go out there and do great things on the battlefield and succumb to the injuries of the battlefield, the mental and the moral injuries from killing and seeing horrible things. You can be destroyed by those things if your soul is not built up where it needs to be as a warrior. What do I mean by this? Well, being a warrior is not something that people on planet Earth made up. It is not an invention of mankind. Being a warrior is something in the character of God. God is a warrior. He defines what a warrior is. And being a warrior is not just about being able to fight and kill. The essence of being a warrior is having the ability to execute the justice of God in a righteous way. And our culture has confused being a warrior with some sort of just machoism type mentality. There's fighters all over the place, but there's very few warriors. A real warrior gets his strength from God. A real warrior kills, and he kills righteously. A real warrior is a man who is just, who kills decisively on the battlefield those who need to be killed. A real warrior kills for the defense of the innocent. And a real warrior is able to go home and live his life in peace because he is settled in his soul with what he did on the battlefield. And you have got to be that warrior before you hit the battlefield. Because if you're not that decisive, honorable, righteous warrior, and you step onto that battlefield, you think that you're not going to have moral dilemma and difficult situations to make while you're in a gunfight? You absolutely are. And you have got to be clear in what you're going to do. There is nothing wrong with killing when you're killing for right. And you're killing the wicked and those who seek to behead and destroy the most innocent on this planet. Killing those guys is good. But to go out there and do that, and to do it right, you need to be the man of God that you're supposed to be. And before you go into boot camp, that warrior should already exist inside of you. It should be settled who you are. Now, the Marine Corps or the Army is going to mold you into the type of warrior that they want you to be. And it's going to come with a lot of lingo and instruction and things that you're supposed to remember. But ultimately, being a warrior comes from the Word of God. And the best warriors that ever walked God's green earth and ever carried a sword or a spear into battle and ever killed the enemy are found in the Word of God. And their story is there for you to read. So what do you do? How do you develop your soul? Number one, you need a relationship with God. You must have your sins covered. They must be paid for in full. Jesus Christ has made that payment. He freely offers his gift of forgiveness and salvation to everyone who would ask for it, who would receive it, and he just lays it out there. So you need to accept his offering to you of himself. If you have not done that, I encourage you to talk to God and let him know that you don't deserve anything that he has given you, but at the same time, you graciously accept his gift of grace and mercy and forgiveness to you, and call upon him as your king. He stands to make you right by what he has done. Because currently, if you have not done that, you are an enemy of God. And you cannot be a righteous warrior if you're in a position where you are an enemy of the righteous king. Do you see how that doesn't make any sense? If you want to go be a righteous warrior, you've got to fight for the righteous king. You've got to be on his side. And to be on his side, you have to accept his sacrifice and come to grips with his terms of the way it is and how it's going to be. So get that straightened out in your life. And it's nothing that you do. You bring nothing to the table. You're all equally worthless. We are all equally worthless. And we call upon a God who graciously gave of himself for us. And we never deserved it. We never will. We can never earn it. It's all by him, for him, and through him. So you need that relationship with God. Now, if you have one, if you have that relationship with God, you need to move down deep into it. And you need to be searching the word every day. You need to be in tune with him, with what the word of God has to say to you. And if you're doing that every day, then you're probably where you need to be. But when you're there, when you're in boot camp, or when you're on the battlefield, you are going to be tested. You're going to be tested far more than you thought you would be tested. And I would say that the worst thing that could happen is that you end up getting through that hard time in your life by yourself. And you get through it without having to call upon the name of the Lord, because you depended upon yourself and you depended upon your buddies, and you just got through by the skin of your teeth. And you've turned around all these years later and said, well, where was God when I was there? Was I trusting in him while I was there going through this difficult thing? No, I was actually just trusting in my own personal abilities. And the world's full of people that get to great places by trusting in themselves. Don't get me wrong. You don't want to be there, though. You don't want to get to that pinnacle of success on your own. You get through it with the Lord. You let him guide your steps. You let him comfort you. You know, when you're in boot camp, you're going to be more lonely and homesick than you've ever been in your life. And that feeling is going to hurt you in your chest and in your soul more than you could have imagined it would ever feel like. And when you're there, you need to be talking to God. You need to be crying out to him and saying, God, comfort me. I'm alone. I'm sad. I'm distraught. I'm beaten. I can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. When is this ever going to end? I miss my mom and my dad, or I miss my wife, or my brothers and sisters. How am I going to get through this, God? And when you're really low like that, and everything just sucks in life, and you're crying out to God, he's going to answer you. He's going to hear you, and he's going to answer you, and he's going to give you a comfort that you did not see coming. And you'll find that comfort at some point in time. You might not find it right there when you ask for it. You might find it the next day or the one after that. God will answer you. He always answers us. Those of us who he loves and who love him, he answers. He delivers. Some practical advice for getting your soul right: study the Psalms. The Psalms are written for everybody, but they're written by the hand of a warrior. Most of them, the ones that King David wrote, the man was an absolute beast, total warrior stud. And he depended upon God for everything. And so for me, I have just accepted this into my life that this is where I need to be. These Psalms right here, these songs and prayers that David wrote to God, man, he wrote them in some of the worst times of his life, reflecting on some of the most horrible, crazy things that could ever happen to anybody. And I just say, man, if they're good enough for David, they're good enough for me. Who am I? So get in the Psalms, get in the Gospels, get in the epistles, the Old Testament, get it wherever. But I would say find yourself in the Psalms and find yourself in one Psalm in particular. There is a Psalm for you. There is one that will find its home in your heart where you'll find it one day and you'll know. I know that happened to me. Psalm 116. Now I kind of switched it. It used to be Psalm 140, and I used to pray Psalm 140 all the time in Iraq. And it changed for me when I saw not just what God did for me on the streets of Ramadi, but when I saw like where I was at on the streets of Ramadi, and I saw what God did for me. And so, I've talked about that. I don't want to keep constantly bringing that up, but just that I was low, I cried to the Lord, God heard me, and he answered me. And Psalm 116 encapsulates that instance in my life, and it's very special to me because of that. So there is a psalm for you out there, and I encourage you, get in the Psalms and find one, and get it to where you almost memorize it. And then, while you're in basic training or boot camp, wherever you're at, maybe you're going through an indoc or something, call upon that psalm while you're in the midst of, the most sucky part of it. Just drill down on it in your head. Pray it to the Lord. And his word is powerful, and his word is going to impact your soul on the spot. Do not get through the most crazy time of your life on your own. Get through it with God. It's going to mean so much more to you when you're done. Let me share Psalm 140 with you. It says this: "Deliver me, O Lord, from evil men. Preserve me from violent men who plan evil things in their hearts. They continually gather together for war. They sharpen their tongues like a serpent. The poison of asps is under their lips. Keep me, O Lord, from the hands of the wicked. Preserve me from violent men who have purposed to make my steps stumble. The proud have hidden a snare for me in cords. They have spread a net by the wayside. They have set traps for me. I said to the Lord, you are my God. Hear the voice of my supplications, O Lord. O God, the Lord, the strength of my salvation, you have covered my head in the day of battle." The day of battle. The day of battle. Oh yeah. "Do not grant, O Lord, the desires of the wicked. Do not further his wicked scheme, lest they be exalted." That was a special psalm for me when I was over in Iraq, and for a long time after, and even today, obviously. But you go find yourself a psalm. Now, if you like this episode, do me a favor, write us a 5-star review on whatever platform you're on. Share this episode with somebody else that you think needs to hear it. And I really appreciate any comments or feedback that I can get. If you want to send us an email with a question or a comment, feel free to do so. dayofbattlepodcast@gmail.com. For those of you that are about to go to boot camp, train hard, get your mind right, get your body sweating, puking, moving, don't freaking give up on yourself, and get your soul right. Come to Jesus and trust him with all that you have. The Lord goes before you. The God of Israel is your rear guard. He has your 12, and he has your 6.